Commissioner Bauer,
Present.
Commissioner Gibbings,
Present.
Commissioner Perkins,
Present.
and Mayor William Stevens is here. With that, I'd like to just state that Commissioner Jasinski was traveling this week and was supposed to actually be in the Israel area, and found himself having to have travel without the ability to call in today. He has provided me some notes that when we get to certain things that I'll read those into the file. But as anybody who's come to any of these meetings, I don't try not to push anything through council. And it's either 50441, and with him not here, some of the more delicate issues, we're going to table until the next meeting just to make sure. We'll have a conversation, but we just may not vote on him today because he's not here today. With that, one change to the agenda before I ask for an adoption of the agenda is that Captain Todd Fridgman cannot make it. So I'm going to ask for a motion to adopt the agenda without number 2.
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Updates, announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Center of the Inland Bays continues to work on the project down at Sunset Park over to McKinley Avenue. At this time, we're getting joint permitting with DENREC and the Army Corps of Engineers. We also asked DENREC for an extension for the $22,000 we received, and then that was going to expire in June of this next year. We asked it to go to December of 2025 because we're coordinating with the Center of the Inland Bays. If we did the work at Sunset Park, they would have to move some of their equipment across the park to get to their living shoreline. So we asked for the extension and DENREC's granted it. We've drafted 2 RFPs. One is for the beach rake, and the other one is to look at our banking right now to put those out sometime in the next 2 months to get those out there and get some information back on both of them. They're both being reviewed right now. We still have 2 5G poles out there, one on Collins Avenue, one on St. Louis Street. Jim and I met with Verizon 2 weeks ago and looked at a spot on Collins Street. They're checking with DP&L right now, but they feel pretty confident they'll be able to move it there. So you should see permits coming in soon to get that pole moved. Those permits will go to CTC, our company, to review them. Then they'll come back to us or go back to Verizon with any corrections that need to be done for those locations to make sure they fit our standards and our codes. Right now, we're up to 411 building permits. That's approximately 200 more than last year. Planning, so the center island, looking at that, we're going to have it weeded again in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I've purchased about 300 bulbs that we're going to have planted where the posts and ropes are, and then 1,000 seeds, just wildflower seeds that are going to go in the other areas where we have the trees with the squares around them. So we hope to have that done before like November 15th, before we get a real hard frost coming in. Reed Avenue project, which is what we're really looking at for the flooding down there. Beacon Engineering and RV have provided their options. I've provided those options to the Infrastructure Committee Chair, Jim Taylor, for review, and then at some point he'll get the committee together, have those 2 folks come in, and then they'll ask questions and make recommendations to you. Southern Storm Drain Project, which is basically from Rodney Street down to Collins Street. There's 2 pipes that need to be realigned down there. One's on Dickinson Street, one's on Collins Street. I've provided that information also to Jim Tyler. DelDOT will be repaving all the roads that they own in the town. They will start on the south end of town at Collins Street and work their way north. There's 3 roads that the town owns parts of them. One is Chesapeake, Carolina, and Jersey Street. So what I'm trying to do with your suggestion is work with the contractor in the state to see why they're here, how much it'll cost to get all the streets done, even the ones the town own, to see if we could get the money through infrastructure to pay for that. I'm still waiting for them to come back on that.
And when are they thinking about that? When will that project start?
Sometime in the spring. They think in March it'll start. Trick or treat will be October 27th, 6:30 to 7:30, and then the haunted bonfire and beach party on Dickinson Street. And of course, that's all by the Dewey Beach Partnership. Kelly Ranieri will be running that. I'd like to thank Pete Schwarzkopf and Senator Huxtable for the $45,000 that will allow us to buy 20 new beach mats that came out of CTF funding. We're going to be replacing the ramp out here next week. That should be all new the next time you come in. We're also going to be receiving estimates for painting the white trim here on the building. It needs to be done. It's all peeling off. We continue to try to keep Dewey Beach as clean as possible. If you saw the newsletter we put out, we talked about picking up garbage and cigarette butts. So I reached out to Keep Delaware Beautiful, Jessica Katz, who oversees the issues with cigarette butts, and she's going to be bringing us 10 what they call cigarette butt receptacles that we can put around town. Right now, the worst spot when I walk around town and look is on the bay side, between Dagsworthy and McKinley. We've got a number of cigarette butts, basically from Jungle Gyms, which is the dog place, in front of the Dewey Beach Country Club. It's really bad there. So I'm gonna work with the business owners. I talked to some of them already. When we get those in, I'm gonna provide them and have them put those out in front of their businesses, hopefully and get rid of some of those cigarette butts that are around town. We had a very successful donation drive for the Rehoboth Beach Fire Company. You know, we said we would match Sheena, that was Sheena's idea. We basically gave them a donation of $21,000 with the town matching a little over $10,000 of that. It was the largest donation since I've been here to the Rehoboth Beach Fire Company. A special thanks to the McCoy family on West Street for the large donation. Pending any questions, that's all I have, Mayor.
Council, any questions? Thank you, Bill. Committee reports, go by person. Commissioner Gibbings.
Investment Committee will be meeting on November 2nd.
Commissioner Bauer.
Marketing will be meeting in November as well. And we just had our first budget and finance meeting last week, or this week, actually, a couple of days ago. And so we're going to be having a monthly now going forward.
Very good. Commissioner Berger.
Yeah, we have some recommendations from the Climate Change Committee. We're going to be talking about those in just a few minutes. We are going to need a new chair for the Climate Change Committee. Dave Davis has decided to discontinue as chairman, so we're going to be looking for that. It still should be a very active committee, and hopefully the commissioners here will have some input for them on the recommendations that they've come up with so far. The Charter and Code Review Committee is scheduled to meet on Thursday. We have some recommendations that we're going to send to them as well, but I'll talk a little bit later about the process and some of the priorities we're going to follow with that committee. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Can I get a motion for the approval of the minutes from September 15th, 2023?
Motion.
And
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And an approval for the minutes for September 29th, 2023 organizational meeting minutes.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now I'll open up the floor for public comment. So if anybody would like to come up to the podium, your name, except for you, Montgomery.
Steve Montgomery. I just wanted to, 2 weeks ago, everybody knows Dewey goes pink. Dewey was pink. And last night, we kind of got things organized to come up with the total amount of money that was raised. Honestly, that event is not about money. To me, it's more about the time we show everybody in Dewey Beach and the 4,400 people that showed up to participate and had a great time. But number one, thanks to the town. They've been great to make it. It's gotten bigger. It's gotten bigger. We've expanded. It's an event that we would love to get bigger. We cut it off after 3.5 weeks this year, sold out at 44,000. Somehow we ended up with 4,400. I'm spineless, so we just kept getting every sob story of somebody had to get in. We kept getting them in. But anyway, the town manager, I've already talked. We've got ideas. Janine Stevens is helping me organize that thing. And let me tell you, she is the best of the best at organizing. That is how that man's successful, because she is the woman behind the man that keeps him organized, that keeps him going, because she is on every little detail. And I had a 2-hour meeting with her 2 days ago telling me how we were going to do it next year. And she's 100% right on everything. We're only going to get better. But the coolest and neatest part about, what a great day for Dewey Beach, and every single business in town thrives. Everybody thrives over that event. It makes so many people feel good that there's not a day that goes by, not a grocery store visit where somebody's not talking about it. That's the good feeling of it. But we found out that the money donated to the Sussex County's Delaware Breast Cancer Coalition is going to be between $325,000 and $340,000 this year, which is $100,000 more than last year. So it was, thanks to Janine's organization, and got a lot better. But it was great, and I look forward to doing it again next year in year 13. Are we gonna have, on another note, we're gonna have a chance for comments on parking, or do we do that now?
We'll do it at parking.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the chief has an announcement she'd like to make at this time.
Sure.
Colin, come on up. right here, facing everybody.
It's okay.
Okay.
All right, this afternoon I have the pleasure of promoting to the rank of sergeant a man that brings an incredible amount of knowledge and experience that I believe will greatly benefit the Dewey Beach Police Department and the citizen and visitors that we serve. Colin Schmidt was born and raised in the Philadelphia region. He relocated to Delaware in 2006 and began his law enforcement career in Selbyville after his graduation from the Delaware State Police Academy. Working patrol, he had gained experience in handling felonies and complex criminal investigations. Colin transferred to the Dover Police Department, where his passion for training began to take shape. He became a certified COPT instructor, served as a field training officer, as well as a management coordinator for the FTO program. Colin became a shift investigator and was assigned to the detective section. He has instructed numerous recruit officers at both the entry-level academy as well as to the seasonal academies. Colin left police work for about a year and a half before he came to us as a part-time officer. During this time, he worked as a construction manager overseeing hundreds of personnel, building both residential and commercial projects. When Colin and I met, I quickly surmised that he had a true passion for police work and training young police officers. It was clear that the younger officers sought his knowledge and guidance. Although a part-time officer, it was clear Colin was an informal leader. Tonight, he's officially a leader. Colin has the experience, knowledge, and intellect to help develop young officers. He's pragmatic, calm during critical incidents, and draws from his past experiences in a large city police agency to use best police practices in Dewey. And maybe most impressive, he is respected and admired by all of us at the DBPD. I am delighted that I was able to recruit such an outstanding police professional as Colin to help lead and guide this outstanding agency into the future. Congratulations, Sergeant Schmidt. Yeah, you do. I'm gonna put you on Facebook.
That's what he wants.
Congratulations, welcome.
Congratulations. Thank you very much, Colin. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Are there any other general public comment before we get to the meat of the agenda?
Kate has somebody.
I do have a few people on Zoom if there was no one else in person.
No one else in person for non-items? Okay.
We have a few people in the room, so I was just going to go in order. David Moskowitz was first into the Zoom. David, you
May
can
I
go
go?
ahead.
Okay, David Moskowitz, Dewey Beach. To the town manager, you mentioned banking RFP. That should be going through the investment committee as it's done in the past. Then for the budget committee, they met this week and for the fourth time this year had some sort of illegal meeting or vote. What I suggested after the third time this happened was that commissioners, employees, and committee members should be undergoing FOIA training by Glenn Mandelis or Max Walton. The town used to do this in the past, and it's more urgent now with no one in town that has a deep experience of FOIA and constant mistakes. The town badly missed Ashley. And to remind everyone, one Dewey Town Committee chair lack of FOIA knowledge cost the town $150,000 around 3 to 4 years ago. So FOIA training is like defensive driver training or insurance. And it's not supposed to be on today's agenda, but posted as a meeting supplement is a Dewey K-9. What the town has been doing is having discussions during announcements or comments, which are planned ahead of time, which is a FOIA violation. You need to put known discussion items on the agenda. And in regards to the police dogs, that's a huge expense. It's not a free dog. An officer gets to work 1 hour less each day and has training 1 day a month less and 1 week a year as well. Plus cars need to be fitted and dogs need to be maintained. One can argue this is part of a police officer pay package, which the proper role of the police chief would be to get it voted on by council. The police chief needs to be a leader by managing the budget properly and going to the commissioners when you'll be adding tens of thousands of dollars over a period. Doing some basic math to get the expense of a dog at about $15,000 a year, and now the town has 2 of them, that's $30,000 a year, and the town surplus used to be about $30,000 a year. The legal vote held by the budget committee was about allowing the town manager to increase spending 20% per year without any commissioner approval oversight. This after some fees were increased 28% last year. The town manager made a comment last year, we will blow the budget out of the water. Well, you did that, and it's time to stop and reevaluate your spending spree. Other towns are in penny pinching mode, whereas Dewey's doing the opposite. And in regards to the beach replenishment tax, aside from it being prohibited by the charter without referendum, there's required public notice, which the town failed to do. And the calculations in your beach tax form is wrong. You put that the federal state was 70-30, it's actually 65-35. And you put that Dewey only got 16% of sand, it was actually 47% of sand. So the number that the town is saying that they would need to spend on beach tax is 200 grand when it's actually 685,000. And I sent all the commissioners the actual calculation based on the news articles of the actual sand. So you have it totally wrong.
Thank you. Next.
Next in was Matthew Short. Matthew, if you can just let us know if you wanted to make general public comment.
No comment, thank you.
And next one in was Anna Legates. Anna, same thing, if you can let us know if you want to make general comment. Okay, and last one in was Del Tush.
Yes, I would.
Sure, go ahead.
On the beach replenishment, wanting to take part of the beach replenishment money to use for other things. The intent when this was started was that in the event the federal government no longer wanted to fund beach replenishment, then the town had to make an effort to show they would do a cost share with the state, and that was when the beach tax was initiated. So it was set in place to be there in the event the federal government no longer paid to have it done. And when I was mayor, I went at one point, and Obama was president, he did not favor beach replenishment and was talking about taking the money away. And we went to Washington, D.C. and we went to the American Shore and Beach Preservation Convention that they have every year there. And then we all went and lobbied all of our senators and representatives of the various states from the American Shore and Beach Preservation to tell them that, you know, the beaches bring in a tremendous amount of revenue, and that keeping beach replenishment in place was a vital thing that the coastal towns needed. And so Obama did relent and agreed to keep funding beach replenishment. But if now you want to start taking money out of that fund that we have set aside, it's, you know, you've got to stop and think, why would it be used to pay lifeguards, and why would it be used to fund anything over on the Bayside when the Army Corps of Engineers only replenished the Oceanside beach? People come to Dewey Beach to go to the Oceanside beach. I don't know of too many, we have rentals, and I don't know of too many of my people that come here to rent that go to the bay for any reason. And I am opposed to having anything done with the beach tax money other than what it was designated to be. I was even opposed to having the beach maintenance, the cleaning of the beach, taken out of the fund, because according to the people that were in power at the time, they said that was not the purpose of that fund, that fund was to only be used for beach replenishment. And so now the town's trying to change everything and use the money for whatever they want to use the money for. And I totally am opposed to that. I question, what are we doing with all the transfer dollars that we get? That has to be a tremendous source of revenue, especially with the cost of properties. So why do we need to mess with the beach tax fund when we do have other streams of revenue? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Tush.
That looks like it for general comment. If I may, Mayor, just give a reminder to everyone. I expect that we're going to have a lot of people coming in and out of the Zoom throughout. If you can just have your chat open and let me know if you want to make comment on an item so we don't forget you.
Thank you, Kate.
Yep.
Okay. Let's move on to the first element of our agenda, which is review September financials. Financials were available online. Ms. Hall, you want to come up and give a little overview?
No, September. It just says September. That's it. Sorry. Based on, we haven't gotten as much transfer tax the past couple months as we had hoped for. Only a couple properties have sold these past 2 months. However, our licensing is still coming in thanks to our front office catching people when they come in to pay their accommodations tax, or following up and saying, hey, you've did a business rental license before. Our building permits are still going strong. Our hotel tax is the revenues that the hotels are reporting this year in comparison to last year is 3% lower, which may not sound like much, but when our tax only went up 0.5%, it kind of adds a little. However, through the end of, from April through September, prior to set-asides, we're at over 600,000 good with our revenues over our expenses. We got very lucky with our parking this year, did very well. Our set-asides take about 300,000 out of that. So we're coming into some slower months. We have one revenue stream left of the accommodations tax. It was all due, it's due the 15th, but we'll be getting more in throughout the month. After that, I'll be able to have a better idea of where our revenues look for the rest of the year.
So if I look at, we have net operating income before set-asides of 668 versus 399.
Yes,
so we're
sir.
268 over budget.
Yes, sir.
Is any of that a timing issue, or that we're, from a net income, we're just doing, it's revenue generated?
It's just revenue generated. Now, the doing the budget allocations, salaries is easy. You do it based on number of pay periods a month. Some of them I can do based on cyclical. Your parking's only certain months. That's an easy one. Your transfer tax, you're guessing based on the past. And in some of my projections for the future, for the rest of the year, I went back to the FY 14 through 18, which was prior to COVID, prior to the Hyatt selling everything, back before the money started really coming in transfer tax, and had to readjust my numbers based on that.
Well, I'll open up for council. Mr. Persinger.
Yeah, I had some comments and questions. If we could turn a little bit to the projections that you were just talking about, because
Yes, sir.
the reason we were going through this exercise in terms of trying to project for the rest of the year was one of the recommendations that we got from our audit this year was that we amend our budget throughout the year so that by the time we get to the end of the year, our expenditures and our revenues are really matching up with what's in the budget. So the exercise here is to try to project for the next 6 months what we're going to look like at the end of the year. There's some ups and downs, but I think in terms of the overall projections, it looks like you're projecting somewhere around a couple $100,000 in additional income, $208,000, but almost $300,000 in additional expenditures, which means that after set-asides for the year, we are probably about $56,000 short.
Yes, sir.
There's time to recover, obviously. You don't have accommodations taxes yet. I think as we talked with Budget and Finance Committee the other evening, there are some negative numbers in here with respect to investment income.
Yes, sir.
And the suggestion, I think there's agreement from the town, is that we take that investment income out, both the losses and the gains, because it's not real money. It's money that is invested with the Brown Advisory. It's not money that ever comes into the town hall coffers here and is used to support operating expenses. It raises one other issue with respect to that investment income, and that is there's a substantial loss that is shown here, and it's a long-term loss. It's comparing what they actually sold, all of their investment in a short-term fixed income fund, and the difference between that and what they paid for it. There's a sizable loss there. The question I have, and this is something I think I would like to refer to the budget, but rather to the investment committee, is first of all, was that a good decision? Because the town was not part of that decision. And secondly, as I understand it, that particular set of money, and it's about $1.3 million, is about 60% of our rainy day fund. Is there a good argument for us to say that that money shouldn't be subject to any market risk at all? That we ought to be putting that somewhere else where even if the interest rates go down, there's at least a positive result with respect to that. So I think, again, that's something that the investment committee could help us with. When I looked at the, let me get to a couple of other things very quickly. When I looked at the projections, and just because we're fairly close to about $56,000 or $46,000 if you take out the investment results, things like bank and credit card fees, where there are some high charges early on in the year, but all of the projections later on come down. I don't know if that's some
Those
good feeling for
fees,
that.
the majority of those fees are based on credit card transactions that we process. So we process a tremendous amount of transactions during the summer. We'll process fewer in the winter.
Okay. And then with respect to IT costs, there were some couple of big hits early on. That seems to have smoothed out, at least in terms of the projection. Is there any?
That was part of the audit, Commissioner Persinger, where they said we needed to up our IT security. Kate's been working with SecureNet, and there was some additional higher costs in the very beginning. And now that we've brought our internet and our IT up, that should level out somewhat, but we're still going to need to spend money to keep our IT secure.
Okay.
There's also some software renewals that happen at the beginning of the year.
Okay. Excuse me, I have a couple other questions about the fund balances, but I'll defer those for right now. We have to get on to other business, but let me just point out, I hope we can come back after we've gotten some more data on the accommodations tax and come back and actually propose an amendment to the budget at next month's meeting. The real big changes here, police expenditures, we're up about $250,000 or so on employee expenses. Overall, I think police expenditures are up for about $300,000. A lot of that is because we added 3 new police officers for the last 6 months of the year, and they're at the academy now, not contributing to police services until next year. So hopefully that would change somewhat, because when we originally started talking about this, we were talking about this basically being a zero-sum addition, maybe costing only about $5,000. So hopefully next year we can see some reduction in some of the expenses that we've suffered this year, or experienced this year, not suffered. I will stop there. Again, I hope we can come back to.
Yeah, let me, if I may make just a few comments. I, based upon prior audit, I think it's a good idea for us to, once we know that there's a material variance in a category associated with the budget, we should make that change. Looking at the actuals today, that would be, for example, the 100,000 over where we are right now in police salaries. How do we offset it? So I think after we have the accommodations in, we have a good feeling for what the balance of the year is going to look like, project forward and make those amendments so that the audit will be representative of that. Commissioner Givens or Commissioner Barrow?
Yeah, I mean, my only comment, I mean, we're looking at what the first 6 months are, and we still have half the year to go before we have a final number. So we're projecting based on what the last 6 look like and what comes in more typically at this time. Like, for example, a house, no one buys houses in June, July, and August, but they sell them in September and, after September going up to April. So that's typically the big season there. But there wasn't a whole lot of houses for sale. There's not a whole lot of inventory to be sold. So when we did the budget last year, we moved transfer tax down to 500,000. And it looks like we're going to hit that, maybe be a little bit over that. So I think we did some, it's tough to predict future income, especially when we have no
When it's not
control over
predictable.
it. Yeah, we have no control over that. So, typically we sell about 50 houses a year. And then, we had a few years where we're selling 100 plus houses a year. A lot of condos down at the Hyatt, so that contributed to it. So hopefully, we see what the uptick in real estate market does, and that could put us way over. I remember a few years back when we were sitting here during COVID saying, "Man, where we're going to get money at? We have none. We got no parking. We got nothing." And then it turned out okay because of real estate. So we'll see how it is. I mean, properties have gotten more expensive, and when your transfer tax is the same percentage, as the house goes up, your revenue goes up. So I'm hoping that's going to be the big saver this year.
No other questions?
I will bring the concerns to the investment committee.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you. Thanks, Shane.
All right, we can fly to the next few and then we'll hit a roadblock. Number 3, discuss possible vote to appoint Patrice Gansey to the marketing committee.
I'd like to motion that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Discuss possible vote to appoint Randall Wise to the Board of Adjustments for a 3-year term. Well, let me pause there. We have several numbers 3 through 8 regard the appointments. Is there anyone here for public comment about any of the appointments? Anybody online about the appointments, Kate?
Jen McDermott is in the room. I don't know if she wants to make a comment or not, but she's one of the ones up for appointment.
No, just here if there's any questions, so.
Okay. All right, number 4, discuss possible vote to appoint Randall Wise to the Board of Adjustments for a 3-year term. May I have a motion?
I move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discuss possible vote to appoint Phil Winkler to the Infrastructure Committee. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who is this Phil Winkler guy?
He's everywhere. Discuss a possible vote to appoint Jennifer McDermott to the Charter and Code Review Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discuss possible vote to appoint Susan Evans to the Investment Committee.
So
Motion.
move.
Second.
And Suzanne sitting right here?
All in favor?
Aye.
Discuss possible vote to reappoint Julie Johnson, Don Alexander, Debbie Knight, and Bernie Kraus to the Audit Committee for a 1-year term.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Number 9, discuss the process and priorities of proposed changes to the town charter and code. Commissioner Persinger.
Yeah, I will do that. You went through those agenda items so quickly, I didn't get to cut my documents as quickly
Said
as
hold
I
on.
would like to. So there are 2 documents. One document is charter sections for review, discussion, and recommendation. That's a summary of a more detailed document, which is titled Dewey Beach Charter Review 2023. The genesis of this really is the mayor, I think, with a very copious amount of spare time. Don't know where he got that, but.
It's gone. I'm glad I took the time. Yes, it's gone.
He reviewed some sections of the charter and some initial sections of the code as well, and raised some questions. I went through his notes and made some responses, and as a result of that, we want to tee this up for review and discussion and hopefully recommendation by the Charter and Code Review Committee. As I said earlier, they're scheduled to meet on this Thursday. But what I'd like to do today is just to review some of these quickly and figure out how to get it on my screen, first of all. There we go. As I said, first of all, the first one is a summary document. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at that. And let me just start by saying, are there any questions about any of the items that we have here? Any of the issues, any questions that any of the commissioners have about these?
I do not.
Okay. What I tried to do was to frame each of those very briefly, but then summarize them with under the heading of issue. So, for example, the first one is I think, perhaps a fairly simple one that we may, in the committee, just review, talk about, and say, there's really nothing we can do, and that is a situation where if you have only one resident candidate, and we have only one open resident council position, the appointment really is automatic for that candidate in an election for town commissioner. I'm not sure there's anything to do about that, but it's at least an issue that we can kick around. Let me just focus on a couple of larger issues. One of which is in section 10, manner of holding elections, voter registration, and voter qualifications. About 5 years ago, I think, Rehoboth went through this issue of, is there a way to qualify some member of an LLC as a qualified voter in an election? And there's a suggested paragraph here which might do that. Is this something that you drafted, or did you pull from somewhere else? I'm not sure.
It's probably something I draft.
Okay. But anyway, there's a base of experience to go back to. I don't know if it was good experience or bad experience, but Rehoboth eventually decided not to pursue trying to add a member of the LLC as a voting, as a legitimate voter in a Rehoboth election. So that's something that we can take up. I don't know if there are any other thoughts about that.
Only the thought is that when we created the original charter, LLCs did not exist. LLCs did not come into play until the 90s. And if they had been there, a single member LLC, which many of our residents have put their properties in for protection as they rent, I don't think that was the intent of keeping the LLCs out, but potentially intent to keep the corporations out.
A couple of other, down in section 20, alderman and assistant alderman. There are, this is really about penalties that could be levied by the alderman or assistant alderman. And the restriction here is no more than $1,000. And the question two questions that are raised: should we update those penalty figures? Should they be higher? And secondly, does this conflict with any other penalty provisions in the code? And I would look at our town attorney for this. When we passed our tree ordinance a few months ago, we put some pretty substantial penalties in there for not following that tree ordinance, about $3,000. And it could increase more than that if you fail to pay that. It's not clear to me that the penalties that are described here, because they're in the alderman, assistant alderman space, whether or not that would affect the penalties that we have in another section of the code. So I think that's something you have to resolve for us, first of all, and then we can turn to the committee to take this up. And I think maybe just one more.
But Gary, you will be working with Charter and Code on these issues.
We'll be working on all the issues. I'm just trying to hit a few highlights here. There was a question that was raised about whether or not the fact that we have the accommodations tax and the lodging tax in the charter, and they're also duplicated in the code, whether or not we have to have that duplication. Could we take these out of the charter and just deal with them in the code? Again, this is, first of all, I think a question to our attorney. As I read Title 22, and I think it's the very last section, it says that any tax levied by a municipality has to be expressly authorized in the charter or expressly authorized in Title 22. That's again my reading, but we would need your confirmation. So by my reading of that, I think we would still have to have the accommodations tax and the lodging tax in the charter, in the town charter. There's a question that occurred to me also about the beach tax, which is not addressed in the charter, it's addressed only in the code. But I think, again, we need confirmation of the town attorney. I think that Title 22 actually authorizes municipalities to levy taxes based on property assessments. So it would not have to be in our charter. It is, I think, expressly authorized in Title 22.
You're asking specifically about property taxes?
Yes.
Yeah. So the taxes that are authorized by the state code would be, that authorization would be equivalent to it being present in our charter. There is, because it's state law, the charter is state law and the code is state law. There was that decision, or I should say, some legislation that passed some time ago. It might have been around the discussion of a gross receipts tax, that we're not authorized to enact a new tax that's not specifically authorized in our charter or in the state code.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I will stop there unless there are any questions. We are going to pursue all of these with the committee.
I'd encourage anybody from town that, take a look at the document. If you want to weigh in, please get your comments to Gary Persinger at townofdeweybeach.com.
Just one other question. Thanks. Do any of these issues strike you as priority issues, ones that should be pursued first before others?
Well, I can tell you every time the Powerball goes to $1 billion, the prohibition on gambling becomes the top one when I got to drive out to the gas station to get tickets. The borrowing money and issuing bonds as we get closer, and I don't think we're going to hit that $3 million limit, but as we get closer to the town hall, it'd be nice to have that as at least the possibility. So I would look at probably the financial elements first.
Okay.
And also prioritize maybe some of the, as we get closer, some of the ones that are around running for office. The ones like for example, the automatic, if only one resident, if you only have one resident, we have a resident seat open to address that. Because I understand the intent is to have more resident and have at least 2 resident commissioners, but just make sure that's consistent with where we are today as a town, and that I believe is consistent. Moving on, number 10, discuss the process and priorities of recommendation made by the Climate Change Committee. This is you, but also is Dave on the line?
Hi, folks. Yep, I am.
Dave.
Welcome, Dave.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. The floor is yours.
Okay. We just wrapped up the committee year for the Climate Change Committee, and we made a series of recommendations that came about as a result of a workshop that we did back, I think it was in February, with the University of Delaware IPA folks, Chase Barnes and Philip Barnes. And they helped us greatly in focusing our attention on the kind of things that we could enact in the near term that were more policy related. And we all know that there are bigger issues that we're going to have to grapple with, but these were things that they encouraged us to start with until the ball gets rolling, on a greater degree. We did that. We met twice more, and these are the recommendations that we came out with after thinking through and talking about it with the group. None should be all that surprising. If you want, I can just do a quick rundown on the list and we can, talk about it, ask any questions if you like. Is that okay?
That'd be great. Thanks, Dave.
Okay. The first one is to increase the free board. And we had a long discussion with the help of Dawn about the current setting for free board, 1 foot above elevation. And it's consistent with all of the county and nearby, code and rules. However, in the interest of safety and the possibility, and there's also a note in the comp plan to deal or address this. So we think it's worth at least getting some more information. In fact, most of these recommendations are probably the kinds of things that you want to dole out to other committees. In this case, maybe, the Planning Commission and so forth to consider and make recommendations and, really discuss the pros and cons. And a lot of these fall into that category, needs further discussion among you folks and other committee members. And so, but we think this is well worth taking up. So anything on that one that you'd like to talk about?
No, sir.
Okay.
Good job.
Second one is creating a resiliency fund. We've long talked, and when I ran for a number of years, the Budget and Finance Committee, one of our almost perennial recommendations was to create some sort of funding mechanism for the long haul for Dewey. And of course, this is a follow-on to that. We are going to need much more money, even though we're in a very reasonably good financial condition now. I've just recently seen the 6-month numbers, and the town's doing great and has for the last so many years. But of course, we know we're going to need, much, much more money than this kind of money to deal with the sea level rise and flooding and so forth, especially in the south end of town. So I think it's time to really have that issue discussed and, create some kind of plan of how that might all, whether it's an impact fee or some other means that, you can raise the kind of money that we think we'll need to address it. And I do think, Mayor Stevens, this also dovetails with the work that you've been doing with ACT to bring together the other towns and inventory the things that they're doing, because as we've all talked about in our meetings, all of this is only going to happen when we come together and partner with other municipalities, both for larger grant amounts and projects. So, it's a matter of tapping into that group resource and pooling of that effort. So, there is going to be money required for each town to contribute. And we just think that there's obviously a need for, creating a fund and a means to do that. Any thoughts on that?
No, one thing I'd just like to comment, that what the work that you and the committee have done, as I've shared it with ACT, the other towns are following suit in terms of what we've accomplished, and so we have been leading the charge to a certain degree. So good work on that, Dave.
Thanks. It's hard to believe that I thought everyone was ahead of us. Turns out we're right sort of neck and neck with most.
Yeah.
Storm reconstruction ordinance. I think there's room to improve the code and the clarifications of what constitutes a 50% increase in, for both property value and damages and rebuilding reconstruction. We had some long discussions about that and, realized that there's some things there that probably could be improved upon. And again, that probably goes to the Planning Commission and potentially other folks to discuss infrastructure and so forth. Maybe not infrastructure, but certainly planning. So, that's kind of, I think that one's a no-brainer. It's more code related, I think, than anything else, just clarifications. And then the last two are really somewhat related: sea level rise disclosure for real estate and a public education campaign. The first of those, the sea level rise disclosure, could actually be folded into the larger public education campaign if you wanted to look at it that way. And that might require the enlistment of some help from the marketing committee and other folks to really put together a campaign to inform people as they're buying or as they're improving, whatever, what the real possibilities are here. So they come in with better information, or they feel like we've kept them informed and proactive on the process. it's a pretty straightforward one. I think that one could be done, probably within the next, committee year for sure. Some of the others will take longer to grapple with, but those are really the key 4 or 5 things that we thought should be carried forward. First for y'all to, discuss and think about, and then, probably seek input from some of the other committees and, the town resources. And that's it.
Any questions, council?
No, I just had a couple of comments. With respect to the freeboard, I hope that's something that we can get done fairly quickly. While it's not simplistic, I think it's important. It's the number one recommendation that you hear from people who are, climate scientists. It's the number one thing that you can do in order to help to mitigate potential damages from floods. And I think it's important to point out too that the town, in designing the town hall, has already decided to adopt, in essence, 3 feet of freeboard instead of just going with the 1 foot that's in the code already. I have a couple other thoughts about the resiliency fund, which I may come back to later. Storm reconstruction ordinance, I think there are a whole host of issues in there in terms of what you can and should do or need to do, must do, if you've experienced storm damage, or also if you want to be able to elevate your property in some way to mitigate potential storm damage. There are some very complicated, I think, requirements in our code that need to be better understood. And it differs between whether or not you're a conforming or non-conforming property. And it hits into the height limit if you're going to elevate your property. So this substantial amount of work to be done here. The last 2 items, sea level rise disclosure and public education campaign. I hope the committee can come back and begin to talk about what the content should be. I think if the committee could identify what the essential content is that should be passed along during real estate transactions, or content that we all believe that the public should be educated about, that the marketing committee can then be very helpful in providing some recommendations about how to go about disseminating and making sure that kind of educational information is available. That's all I had. I think I mentioned earlier that Dave has decided to give up his chairmanship of the committee, and I just want to thank Dave very much for his hard work on this group. He did a great job in getting it started and working through a lot of complex information that we had available to us, and coming up with a set of manageable recommendations that we can all think about and pursue over the next 12 months. So Dave, thanks very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend. If there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer, and have a good weekend, and we'll talk soon. Take care.
Hey, Dave, before you go, for the public education campaign and the real estate piece there, I'd like to invite you to our next marketing meeting. So I'll work with you to make sure it's going to be a convenient date for you too.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate that, and would welcome the opportunity to do that, just as a, sort of get into the issue a little bit and just
get us on the right track with it.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Take care.
All right. Number 11, discuss the possible vote on ordinance to amend chapter 16720 relating to lodging tax imposed. This is regards going from 2.5% to 3%, as we had enacted on several years ago, but had postponed during COVID to give the hotels a little bit of breathing room. This wouldn't happen until April, but I think one of the complaints we heard from some of the hotels that last year was that they were already booking rooms, and that was a nightmare. So if we were able to, if we're going to make the change, put the change in place now so that they can change their software and be able to be accurate to their customers. Anybody for public comment? Vince? Oh, no, Harry's up.
Harry Gallagher, Clayton Street. My comment is not this. My comment is how we just skipped over the beach replenishment tax pretty quickly. And
we didn't.
We did.
No, we didn't.
We did.
No, we didn't.
I thought it's on number
13.
It's 13?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I am
Oh, no worries. No.
I am sorry about that.
No, I'm going to actually call a bio break before number 13 just to.
I circled 9.
It's okay, Harry. Anybody for that point? Okay. Any other conversation?
Just one
Gary?
comment about the lodging tax. When the lodging tax was initially proposed, we decided to devote half of that tax to capital improvements. And it really helped us get our capital improvement fund established. This year and probably next year as well, we're devoting that same 50% of the lodging tax to the cost of the new town hall. So this is an important source of income for the town, but I think that we have made the decision to use it very productively and in a very targeted way, which I think was an important consideration when we enacted this tax.
Agreed. Good job on your part. I think I was here. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, if we can communicate out to the hotels that passed effective 4/1.
Right.
For the next item, number 12, I want everyone to realize that this is, the vote that would happen tonight is not us changing anything. It's us sending it to Budget and Finance for their review and their recommendations to come back up. This is to discuss and possibly vote to request the Budget and Finance Committee to evaluate and provide recommendations to council regarding the financial impacts of the following. I'll do these in 3 separate parts for public comment because I believe I see people that have different comments for each one. So the first one is to potentially reducing the Monday to Wednesday free parking hours. Is anybody here that would like to discuss from public comment on the Monday to Wednesday free parking hours? Oh, please come up.
Carol Everhart, Rehoboth Dewey Chamber. I realized, and we've all realized, that the town needs money, that there's no question about that. But I just want to make sure that you realize the investment that's going into this and the possibility of losing sponsors that cover this. So just this past year, the direct expense, so the screen, paying someone to come out and run the movie, renting the movies, all of that direct expense was $7,792. 2 people, about 10 hours a week, $10 an hour. That's another for, let's see, I should have written 10 weeks, $2,000. So your investment is $9,792. That's about what it cost. The revenue raised, it's just donation, is $6,517. So you're taking a loss of $3,275. My concern is that a lot of that loss, the investment that's put into that, comes from our sponsors. So the question would be, in my mind, are our sponsors going to continue to sponsor that if there's less people coming? The chamber doesn't mind the investment, the sponsors don't mind the investment, but the concern is, will the people still come if there's paid parking? Okay, any question?
Mm-mm.
Good.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol.
Good afternoon. Vince DeFonso. I'm also the chairperson of the chamber for Dewey and Rehoboth. And, Carol brought up a lot of good points. The only point I'm going to bring is that it is a good thing when we have these family-oriented events and the movies at the beach and the bonfires, and people do go to it. I mean, our hotel guests go to it. People from, come down here, they go to it from Rehoboth. I know someone takes a trolley, other people come and park. It's good for our restaurants because families come, they dine. And I'm going to come and speak to the next topic too. But you're seeing lodging tax go down, guys. The economy, they just raised interest rates again. Okay, us guys in business that own businesses down here, our property taxes have almost doubled. Not property taxes, our property insurance has almost doubled over the last couple of years. Health insurance for our employees, cost of goods, everything is skyrocketing. Our income is not surpassing that. And so anything that we can do, anything you're going to do to deter business is not a good thing right now. I'm in the business, the hotel business. I'm in a lot of national boards. I'm an advisory to the Hyatt Corporation. No one is predicting next year to be a gangbuster tourism. the areas, your lodging tax is down 3%. Well, the reason you're only down 3% is because the Hyatt is up. All the other hotels in the market, all these beach towns, are down 5, 10%. Okay, we're up, which I'm going to talk next about, is because of our conferences and stuff. So I just caution us to do anything that's going to deter people to come. It will have an impact on our business.
Thank you, Vincent. I'll let you down.
I'm going to break the rules and just talk about both at the same time, so I don't have to get up here twice. You're a Rehoboth guy, I'm a Dewey guy, I get precedent. As the guy who's been through all this, I just want to give a little background. I've talked to pretty much all of you about this, so no earth-shattering comments here. But at the end of the day, this is a lot about finances for the town. Nobody supports the finances of this town more than I do in the business community, meaning we want our police paid well, we want them all to get raises, we want more police, we want our town manager paid well, we want all his people. We all want that. We're all in that. There's been other things we've talked about that we're all for years and years and decades. There's the talk in Dewey, businesses don't pay their fair share. There's businesses guys saying property owners don't have property tax, and we've joked, we're probably both right. Businesses pay more, property owners could pay more. How that happens, we don't know, but nobody's wrong in that argument. My bigger concern in any talk of parking is where this all started many, many years ago. It's the view of Dewey Beach. Dewey Beach was viewed as a bar town, only a bar town. Everything about Dewey was bar town. It's become very well-rounded. The incorporation of the Dewey Business Partnership, the movies on the beach and things were things that we started when I was back on the marketing committee 100 years ago. And that was because we were trying to make Dewey not just a bar town. That's where the free parking came from. We went around as the original marketing committee on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and counted cars. There might have been 3 cars in town on a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday night. Dewey's a different town today. Get that. But I'd like to think some of that is because of all the years and years of marketing, the Monday through Wednesday thing. We talked about this before, you can't just change something and everybody's going to know. It takes, if not years, a decade for people to learn that parking's free after 5. It's 5 to 11, but it's basically after 5 for all intents and purposes, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Our neighboring town, Rehoboth Beach, parking is free, permit parking after 5 p.m. every day. Different town, different style, but it is 5 p.m. every day. Dewey, those days, the other half of this is the early and late season stuff. Vince is going to talk about the events and the things they do. I could say the same thing. I mean, the early May, it's no secret, a lot of us talked about this in a public meeting. There's always issues in Dewey early in May before the parking permits come on. We have a new chief and a wonderful police department that's led good. We're all hopeful that we can gear up. She was brand new last year. We talked about it, and after the fact, we kind of joked about it. I told you the first 2 weeks of May, it's kind of before the permits go in, and we don't know if it's because of the permits. We assume it is, but we get troublemakers that come into town. We don't want that. We all want safety. We're really excited about the job our chief and our team has done with the public safety in this town. We're excited for what's to come next year because she's got a full year, and we're all working with her on anything and everything she needs. Well, I say that with a grain of salt. Anything you need, not want, to provide public safety in this town. And, we're looking forward to next year and May being ready for it. We've all, as a group of business owners, met and talked about things to do to prevent that troublemaking crew that likes to come to Dewey before the tourist season starts. So hopefully that can work this year without having to extend parking permits, because I can tell you, the weather canceled, but we had the state police 100th anniversary the weekend after permits were out. We have all these events. They have weddings. We all benefit from their weddings big time. So many things are waiting till after. And there's a boom for business on the 15th of the month. Bethany, Rehoboth, and Dewey. It's amazing how much business that first week or two, unfortunately, kind of declines after that. But that first week or two, people go out that live here because parking permits are off. It's not that they're, cheap and don't want to pay it, don't have permits. It's just kind of an exciting thing that the laws are done. We throw an end of the season party on the beach, which I think is a very popular event of several thousand people. And part of that is that the rules and the laws are kind of done for the summer season in Dewey. it's a celebration. So I'm personally a little more, like the end of the season, stopping the 15th of September, than I care the early season, because we do get college students and stuff in May, but it's bigger at the end. I do think one thing that's on the financial thing that is important to our town manager, I agree with him 100%, is the holidays that fall on Mondays, parking. There's Memorial Day, there's 4th of July, there's Labor Day, Mondays. There's the 4th of July week. Us restaurants and bars, we run specials all year long. We remove those specials on Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day weekends. I would suggest the town consider a few things, and that's one of the changes is the permits, the free parking is a special. It's a promotion to get families into town for what we're doing, but it's not valid on holidays, and we just remove it on holidays. It makes it a little confusing, but there's nobody who's I guarantee people on holidays are trying to pay the meters and do it anyway. We allow that. That's pretty much it. I mean, David was just talking about an impact fee for infrastructure. I can tell you, as somebody who talks to a lot of people every day that live in this community, anybody I've talked to that I've brought up the idea, and there's mixed reviews on it from the council maybe, but however, whatever mechanism we could ever come up with to get more money without using the word property tax, because that's a core value of Dewey Beach, no property taxes, that I think people are willing to contribute, willing to pay towards public safety. Maybe it's some sort of fee that's half public safety and half infrastructure for down the road, because people are invested in this town. Property values are higher than they ever are. People know the world is a different place today than it was 10, 15 years ago. This is a big city. We all want public safety. The difference today than 15 years ago, it's a 365-day town, and it didn't used to be. We need finances. The businesses are willing to pay more towards that. I think that it's kind of a thing that they would prefer to pay more if homeowners were paying a little bit. And so there's got to be a mechanism to jointly contribute to public safety infrastructure. And that's kind of the goal for you guys to figure out. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Jason Wilson, homeowner and business owner here in Dewey Beach. I don't want to repeat what three of the people in front of me have already said, just maybe back it from a different perspective. I was around back when the free parking and the marketing committee is the partnership, we all got that into place. And as somebody that's on the beach a lot of evenings, in the midweek, we teach skimboarding at Alley-Oop, and it is very beneficial and gets a lot of families out to the beach, not just tourist families, but local families. And I speak because I got two children, 9 and 6, and know a lot of local families. Not only is it the visitors from Rehoboth, it's people that live in Rehoboth year round and Lewis year round, that those are the nights they like to come into Dewey and eat. And they go to those movies that the chamber puts on and the bonfires. And I think that's a positive step we've taken here with the culture of the town, as Monty said, to help it not just be a party town, but to be a little more well-rounded. It has happened since we've done that. And I think that's a big part of it. So, same thing that they're saying, just from a different perspective of somebody that works here with the youth and has children and isn't a bar owner, isn't a hotel owner. I just want to back the free parking from another side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Harry, did you want to come up? Are you focused on 13?
Well, I got 12 on 13, so I'll wait to see.
Okay. Thank you for following the rules.
So, Mr. Mayor, was
Yes.
that 12A?
That was 12A.
And
Mayor.
Mr. Montgomery did A and B,
Yes,
so we
he
need to
used his
allow,
6 minutes.
we need to allow
Yes.
somebody else to do B as well.
All right, so council, let's,
Mayor, I think you might have public.
Mayor, you have public comment on Zoom
okay, bring it
for
in.
12A. David Moskowitz.
Yeah, David Moskowitz, Dewey Beach. I wonder if there's some type of compromise, because it's sort of like what Carol Everhart said. The chamber events on Monday and Wednesday, not Tuesday. So you could keep Monday parking free and Wednesday parking free at night, and except for holidays, and charge on Tuesdays. And sort of what Monty had said was start May 1st for parking instead of May 15th, but don't extend it past that September 15th. So sort of do half of what you originally envisioned. Then the other thing to throw out is you start charging for parking at 10 a.m. and 9 a.m. parking. There's so many people at the beach at 9 a.m. That would probably be the most money and keep it the simplest, but that's just my opinion. So just free parking Monday and Wednesday except holidays, start May 1st and don't extend it. And just real quick, so I don't need to go back for 12C, the state already readjusts the tax upon reassessment, which I sent all of you the law 105. So there's nothing the town has to do. So the fact that it was put in the document, the town has to do something, state law already says you have to just basically change the proportion, but you can't increase it.
Anyone else, Kate?
Don't think so.
All right, let's focus on 12A. Council, let's conversation. We've heard the business owners potentially reducing the Monday, Wednesday free parking. On the other side of town manager, I believe you have some data.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. The bonfires and movies are a great thing for the town, and I feel we get a lot of people down there. And as Ms. Everhart said, it's about a $9,000 investment. We're losing somewhere between $400,000 and $500,000 by having those nights free. We could still have the bonfire on the beach. We could still have the movie on the beach, but pay for parking. So if a family comes into town for 2 or 3 hours, they're going to pay $6 or $9 and get a free movie for their whole family, or go to the bonfire for free. The other thing is there's public transportation, which is a couple dollars. There's a Jolly Trolley. For the people that live in town, they can actually walk. For the people coming outside of town, there is that public transportation. As far as business in the town of Dewey, in the almost 3 years that I've been here, I think the commissioners in the town have been very pro-business. Everybody that came to the town about outside dining, which increased the business's ability to make money with this outside dining, and it's a great thing. I love it. So the town agreed to that, and everybody that came forward for the outside dining was approved for the outside dining. We also changed the amount of parking you had to have for a restaurant, so you didn't have to have much parking. So I think the town has done a really good job trying to be pro-business. We try, very hard to work with any events that's going in town to try to work with them, make sure that it happens. But we are leaving a lot of money on the table. And as Mr. Fazio said from the Hyatt, everything is going up. Insurance going up, fuel's going up, everything is going up. So not only to run a business does it cost more money, but the town is actually a business. We're not looking at making a profit. We want to just break even. We're having a really hard time doing that. We had the discussion with former Mayor Tush about transfer tax. Transfer tax is one of those things that you may hit it, you may not hit it. Our best revenue coming in is parking. We've made budget so far this year on parking about 1.5 million. If we add any of this parking, whether you're talking about Monday through Wednesday or some of the other ones, we are going to make that budget on parking, and that money can be used for law enforcement, our lifeguard salaries, and a donation to the fire company.
Thank you, Bill. Council.
May I?
Yes.
I am greatly in favor of changing it so that if it falls on a holiday, you have to pay. I know that sounds rude because holiday should be your day off, but we were to the gills here on July 3rd and July 4th because it made for a long weekend, and that's a lot of lost revenue. So if there's a way for the Budget and Finance Committee to look at having it Monday through Wednesday is free unless it falls on a holiday or a holiday weekend, I think that might be a compromise.
Commissioner Fretzinger.
Yeah, I think that may be a reasonable compromise. I'm not in favor of making any changes to the parking. I like the Monday through Friday free parking. I like the season to begin May 15th and end September 15th. It's just the feeling, and there's a sense of relief when September 15th comes around. You don't have to worry about those parking passes anymore. But I am in favor of passing this along to the Budget and Finance Committee. I mean, there's clearly money that's left on the table, if you will. I don't think it's $300,000 or $400,000 as you suggested is. I think if you take Monday through Wednesday as an example, and I guess the only data that I'm aware of is what you provided as an exhibit for today. If you take that data, I think the number for Monday through Wednesday is probably closer to maybe $150,000. I just took an average of the Monday and Sunday figures that were offered here. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday don't look as good as Thursday. Thursday is kind of the new Friday for many people, so there are a lot more people parking. So I don't think any of those 3 days are going to be as good as Thursday. And probably not as good as Sunday either. So if you take and you average those figures, I get a number that's much closer to $150,000 for that period of time. I also just tried to plug in some reasonable numbers if you were to extend the season and let it run from May 1 to September 30th. I think the number is probably closer to your initial estimate. I think you had maybe $90,000 on more than 50% of the revenues that are generated in that 30-day period that you included here. So I think we're probably talking, at least in my mind at this point, and Budget and Finance can come up with their own method for estimating this, but I think we're probably talking about 150 for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and about 90 or so for extending the dates of the season.
Commissioner Barrett.
Yeah, these are a lot of things to look at. I mean, I understand the business side of it. We want to support all the businesses. However, we need to figure out how to raise the money on it. We do have an issue in those first 2 weeks of May, typically, historically, even late April. We had it this year. So, that's not a bad suggestion. Maybe come up with some sort of compromise with it. I like ending it at September 15th as well. I think that's been ingrained in all our brains for all the years that we've been here. So I don't want to see that change. But, we'll let Budget and Finance look at it. I mean, I think the target is to try to, raise, at least $150,000 for the town to help, we prioritize public safety. Public safety helps property values. We don't have public safety, our property values drop. We don't want to do that either. So we got to, since we've already prioritized public safety, we need to figure out how to pay for that. So, it's clearly a Budget and Finance analysis that will come back and present stuff. But, those are just my, open thoughts as they pop into my head.
Great. So, I listened to the comments and having many sidebar comments with the town residents. I agree with Commissioner Persinger that the May 1st hasn't necessarily been an issue, but the September 15th feeling like it's done, it's over. People are leaning more towards that way. On the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I look at it from the standpoint that yes, we have been very business friendly in terms of the decisions that we've made, and as post COVID and where we are today. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is money that other towns are earning on those nights and those evenings. I'm not sure, I don't think it's Monty or Mr. Montgomery pointed out that there may have been 3 cars. I don't know where they are, where it is right now on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But like as I said, this is to ask Budget and Finance for their recommendation. If it ended up becoming that it was Monday through Wednesday or only holidays, and holidays were excluded, I could be in favor of that too. So in hearing everything from the comments for the public perspective and some of the possible revisions, could I get a motion for number 12, A and B?
Can I ask one question before we go there? Carol, can we ask you a question on Monday movies? What was the attendance of that?
This year we had almost 10,000 for the whole season.
Okay.
Both Mondays and Wednesdays.
And then on Wednesday for bonfires?
No, that's both.
But for both, okay.
Depends on the movie.
Depends on the movie, right.
And Jenny has not spoken.
Because I think part of it is the people that attended, some of them live in town already. Some of them are residents that buy a seasonal parking pass. So it's really just a meter revenue that I'm trying to get my arms around to figure out what is that number. And
I can't tell you
Yeah.
that exactly. I can tell you that many people do come in because they call the chamber and the visitor center to find out what's the movie tonight.
Right.
Even though we all have these rooms, they still call, and they don't know what's the movie. It depends on the weather. Okay?
And we had a rough June this year.
Yes, so it could be like on the beach, we don't have the bonfire, there can be wind, and we can't have the movie.
Right. And we make money on bonfires too, so. We make money on bonfires too, so. It's another lever that we're toying around with there. Figure we'll try.
And before I call for motion, Ms. Gibbons pointed out that Vince may have wanted to speak on B and didn't get a chance since Monty spoke on A and B. So Vince, do you want to?
I want to speak on B.
Yeah, come on up.
I do follow the rules. Us guys who work out of Rehoboth.
Rehoboth guys always follow the rules, man.
And I did use my Dewey pass to come into town today. Thank you. No, in all seriousness, and Bill, you know, we have a great working relationship, and I think all the business community could say thank you guys, and I think the town, and the chief, and the commissioners, since I've been here, and it's, you know, almost 10 years now, it's never been better. And so we thank you, and you guys always, and we appreciate you listening. You know, when you look at our business, and again, it's more than just business, but you look, we invested a ton of money in that place, building an event center. A lot of you guys use it. And the Commissioner Giveness, she has a big event coming to our facility in November. Bill was very helpful to get the Fire Chiefs Association. We bring in people that have never come to Dewey, okay? We did a familiarization tour a couple of years ago. Some of you guys were there. We had meeting planners from all over the region. I had global salespeople from around the world, from Hyatt, to come here to bring. It's easy to bring business here from Memorial Day to Labor Day. I mean, it's easy. It's real tough to bring them here in May. And September, not as much, okay, because September is beautiful. But a lot of our conferences, and people are shocked when I tell them, we are busier, and you live there or you're there, September through October than we are in the summertime a lot, because we are just packed with conferences. I mean, we had 600 people there for 3 days this past week with the Delaware Association of Realtors. A lot of these groups come here because of parking is free, okay? We compete in that convention business with a lot of regional places, the Hyatt Regency Cambridge. We compete with the Riverfront. We compete with Dover Downs. You know, for the wedding business, we compete with Rehoboth Beach Country Club, you know, Bayside and Baywood, who all have free parking. I mean, so that is just an important part. And when we bring these big events and weddings, and we do, I'll tell you, we do about 100 weddings a year, you know. Those weddings go to Woody's. Those weddings go to Rudder. Those weddings, after parties are at Starboard. You know, they have a huge economic impact. When we're filling the hotel and we're running high occupancies in September, you guys are getting lodging tax from that. Okay, so it does have a big economic impact to not only us, but to the town. So I would just encourage, you know, you guys to try to keep it. Commissioner, you know, Gary, I always thought that you were the smartest guy on this board. Keep
We
it
know
the
he
same.
is.
Keep it the same. So anyway, thank you for allowing me to speak, but I'm pretty passionate.
Thank you, Vince.
Vince just lost my vote.
He's not running for anything.
All right.
Mayor, may I?
Yes.
This is not A or B, so I'm going to make it A1. Ms. Moskowitz had an interesting notion, rather than looking at days or parts of months, looking at hours of the days. So all the people that have breakfast with me on Friday mornings at Starboard, I beg your forgiveness. We could start at 9 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock. Please ask that to also go to the
Well,
Budget
then
and
you
Finance Committee.
can make a motion and amend what
Can
you're
I-
recommending to Budget and Finance for them to review.
So Budget and Finance are supposed to look at a number of issues, and I would like them to also look at the hours,
Can make them.
daily hours. So I would like to move that in addition to looking at the Monday through Wednesday and the May 1st to September 30th, that they also considered hours during the course of a day, that we have parking charges.
Just one point about that. I'm not sure what data or information you would have
True.
on which to make an estimate. That's the problem with that, I think. There's clearly there's some money, but I have no idea how you get to a ballpark on that. Can I just make one?
Of course.
My question is really about timing on this. Well, let's say we send this to Budget and Finance Committee, they come back, give us an answer. This would then feed into our budget process. Are there any timing restrictions, limitations, interest with respect to us announcing a change, if in fact we do so, that would be better for the businesses and the chamber?
So it would affect your program that you put out, correct, Carol?
Yes. What I'd say is the 2024 visitor guide is in production now, okay? If you have a decision, I can save a page, I can save 2 pages, okay? And we can make a change up until late December or the first week of January, because I'm saving the pages, the printer's ready, but once it goes final, then, and you're looking at 140,000 copies. And we ran out this year. So it's good promotion.
Great.
So, I mean, I raised that question because I wish we could wait and make a decision on this when we get into our budget preparation process, and that may be a little too late. And the concern I have is that when I look at some of the budget figures that we have so far, I don't get the sense necessarily that there's been some hard decision-making when they look at the money that's been budgeted, and I look at what's been spent is well in excess of what's been budgeted. And I'm not sure that the town has done everything it can in terms of looking at potential expenditures and saying, well, maybe we should hold off until the next fiscal year and budget for that. That's just a kind of a general statement. But again, I wish we could wait to make a decision till we're firmly into our budget process and really understand better what our needs are. But that may be too late.
Yeah, I think my opinion on that, Gary, is that by sending it to Budget and Finance, at least we get the recommendations back and we're able to make a decision in November that doesn't impact potentially the printing.
Yeah.
And if the recommendations that come back, or if as council, we don't feel that it's strong enough one way, then we don't need to make the change. It's just more of a question of to give the Budget Finance the ability to evaluate it, look at the numbers, look at the effect on the business, the economy, and provide us recommendations. Right. All right. So
I have a motion.
you have a motion. Do I have a second?
So let's go over exactly the motion.
So we are requesting the Budget and Finance Committee to evaluate and provide recommendations regarding the financial impacts of the following: reducing the Monday, Wednesday free parking hours, extending the parking season from May 1st to September 30th, and extending the daily parking times to perhaps include 9 a.m. as a start.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Brandon, this is a discussion. All right, C, does anybody need a bathroom break?
It's understood, isn't it, that the Budget and Finance Committee could come back with something
They could.
related but different from any of the 3.
They could have a better
Right,
idea.
Right.
I mean, because we've already, yes, you're right, because movies start at what time? 8?
Yes, as it's getting dark, they're trying to promotions first, yes.
So if we go to 6.
Yeah.
Like half price parking or something like
Something,
that.
or flat price, just something. We can come up. We've spent time in prior meetings trying to simplify parking. So I don't necessarily want to go back in time, depending on what day it is and how much you have. So let's talk about 12C. Let me open this up. There's been a lot of conversations, a lot of emails going back and forth, and some of them very negative. This was an attempt to get ahead of a possible problem that we're going to have. This was not an attempt for the town to have money grab. If anything, it's just the opposite. The way our software works is that it pulls in the data from Sussex County. I'm looking at Kate to confirm this, and generates the invoices. When we get to a point of reassessment, I just wanted ahead of time that it just doesn't go through, because the way that it says right now of 0.4, 0.100, you're going to look at 10 to 20 times when you get reassessed what you're currently paying for beach tax. the thought process on this item was to have a conversation around that in terms of the calculation going forward, because we don't want it taken more into the beach assessment tax, not a beach replenishment, it's beach assessment tax. We want to make sure it's there, and also to potentially look at the consistency in how it's being applied. So that was the intent, to make sure that no property owner is harmed as a result of the Sussex County reassessment in 2025. With that being said, I'll open up to the floor for any public comment. Come on up, Mr. Gallagher.
Yeah, let me talk about number 9. Oh, sorry.
That's close, Harry.
I guess we're talking apples and oranges. You're talking about the beach replenishment tax and the beach, and the beach assessment tax.
Well, there is no beach replenishment tax. If you look at the code, it's called beach assessment tax, but everyone refers to it as the beach replenishment tax.
Right. And on the Dewey Beach website, it does say beach replenishment tax and goes into what it's supposed to be used for. So it's the same thing we're talking about.
I'll get for afterwards, meaning where you are looking at that, because it should be changed.
Okay.
Because if you look at the town code, and it says it's beach assessment tax.
Okay. So yeah, that's not the Dewey Beach website. But nevertheless, the 12C and 13 kind of go together, because you want to, the tax rate wants to be raised, and then you want to divert some of that money where it is now for ocean replenishment to bay replenishment, beach tax bay, and public safety, and also for trash removal. So I kind of cover them together at this particular point. I mean, the rate raise, if it's for beach replenishment ocean, I mean, I could understand the raising rate. That would put me at least 100% on the current. It would be 100% raise from what I could figure out, like on my tax. So it would double it basically with the new rate at 4% on 100. And then the kind of going into the usage of that and the change in section 187 or 167. I mean, this kind of does smell of a property tax. And I think maybe you'll hear some other people say that. So, I mean, just, you know, with the rate to be raised, and also the redesignation of that money away from the beach, basically, well, not away from the beach, but to include other aspects of it, does smell of a property tax. So I think, you know, the 5 of you, if we need a property tax, which, you know, people don't want to talk about, that should be, you know, brought out as a property tax, not try to circumvent some of these, you know, some of this monies to some other areas. So that's what I got this way.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
From here? Online, Kate?
Yep, David Moskowitz on
Oh,
Zoom.
I'm sorry. Come on
Oh,
up.
one more in the room.
One more in the room. Room first.
I'm sorry, I took a break when
Sorry?
you guys started. I will go to the restroom. This is on the beach tax.
Yes.
This is on,
The increase
no,
in
this
the-
is on 12C, asking Budget and Finance to look at how the assessment of the beach tax is done, because right now it's based upon old property values.
The assessment, like the amount of the
Yeah,
beach tax,
so-
not the location of the money from.
No, not where the money's going, is how it's calculated.
That's really my only, I don't have a.
Okay,
I don't have a comment.
that's come up in a minute.
Sorry, I
It's
did
all
at the
right.
beginning of
No
the-
worries.
Just wanted to make sure.
You got it.
Okay, yep, David Moskowitz on Zoom.
Yeah, it's been a long meeting, so just want to reiterate, state law should provide, not the charter or code, and it says state law 1105, tax rate upon reassessment. When any total reassessment of taxable properties within a municipal corporation of this state shall have become effective, a tax rate should be computed as to provide the same tax revenue as was levied during the prior fiscal year. So you need to follow state law, and this 12C is not necessary. I would hope you should check with your solicitor. Thanks.
Anyone else? Okay.
Somebody just came into the room, but they're under Zoom user. I don't. Oh, is that Dave?
Dave.
He's connecting to audio.
Do you want to weigh in on the state law?
I don't think this is.
That's not,
I
it's not
don't
way
know.
around it. Has to do with what we pay for your property. It's nothing to do with how we assess.
Dave, did you want to make a comment on 12C?
Dave Lyons.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can.
Okay, great. Yeah, I do. First, I just want to say thank you to all the commissioners for your service. I realize it's kind of a thankless job in terms of what you all do and all the emails and conversations and things you have. So I just want to thank you first for taking the time to listen to everybody's concerns and interests. And I've already expressed my concerns to all of you, and I'm not going to go back through that there. But one thing that's become very clear to me today is, can you not hear me?
No, we can hear you.
Oh, yeah, here's my comment. Just something that, all I wanted to say is just to give.
We can see you.
We can see and hear you.
And we can hear you.
Let's do a Tom Carper.
Dave, we can see you. Can you hear us?
No.
Well, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Okay, so I'll just close quickly with, I think just doing the marketing or making residents aware of the challenges would be very helpful. So whether the mayor could have a mayor's corner or some kind of ability to speak to residents about what the challenges are that the city's up against from a financial perspective would be very helpful and would probably eliminate a lot of the concerns, because people really don't understand the challenges that we're up against. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons.
That's fine. I'm done. I've said what I had to say. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. Anyone else? Okay. Again, Commissioner Persinger, you've already heard me talk.
Yeah, I'm sorry. With respect to the reassessment, I am interested in what the legal requirements are. I've heard one version. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's some different interpretations, but I think we need to look to our council to tell us more clearly what our obligations are. I'm a little worried that the question that we're sending to Budget and Finance is perhaps not that well defined. I mean, if I think about this, and I know just based on my own property and what some other people are paying for in terms of their property tax, if you go to a full market assessment value as the basis for levying a tax, you're probably increasing these assessments by a factor of 20, maybe 25 times, something like that. It's a relatively easy thing to, if you know that that's going to be the actual market value, it's easy just to adjust your rate. So instead of charging 40 cents per $100, instead charge 20 cents per 1,000. So that way, in my 9-bedroom, 8-bath house is worth $5 million. I'd be paying $1,000 a year, but the person who owns $500,000 condominium is only going to be paying a couple $100 a year. So, in that sense, it's relatively easy to assess. I don't know, maybe there's some hooks or problems that I'm not aware of, but are we asking something of the Budget and Finance Committee that's as simple as that, or is there something more complicated here?
Is that for me?
Well, that's
okay.
Yeah,
so
it
started off as looking at what's going to happen in 2025 when properties are reassessed without addressing by the letter of how the code is written in terms of being tied to the Sussex County appraisals, whether it's 1992 or the current value, whatever year. I don't know why 1992 was ever put in there. But that also opened the door to the fact, and this is not about increasing the assessment, the beach assessment tax. This is about the mechanics of how it's going to be calculated and what is fair and equitable to the residents of this town. Should a couple in a $5 million home pay 10 times the couple that has a $500,000 home for future beach replenishment. And that's the question. So that if Budget and Finance came back and said, we think beach assessment should be X 150 per resident, then, you know, whatever that number is, like that could be something to come back from it as an example.
Well, again, I think that
So it's
goes back
mechanics.
to our town council, though, still has to tell us what our legal responsibilities are. You know, some situations, you know, one suggestion is if everybody pays the same amount, just a flat amount. I'm not sure that that's possible within the context of Title 22. But again, so we have to look to.
Or the
give us
Constitution.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Fred?
Well, I mean, look, I think this is a matter that's going to require some study and probably some interaction between us and maybe the finance department of the state of Delaware. I mean, this is something that I'm not really comfortable speaking to in an open meeting. There might be a couple of matters that need to be interpreted because it's not crystal clear. I mean, it does look like the date 1992 is in the code simply because that was the year the beach tax was apparently
Put in
imposed.
place.
Yeah. So I don't know what relationship 1992 has to the current tax that is imposed. I mean, the Sussex County's assessment of these properties, which we rely on, isn't pinned to 1992, is it?
I think it's 84.
Yeah, I know. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's 1970.
Yeah.
78, I think.
believe
it was
mid to late 70s.
Yeah.
It's different in the
Well,
three counties.
It's in the Supreme Court case. There's a link in the document that was included as an exhibit for this. There's a link there to the Supreme Court case, and there's a discussion about how each of the counties do it and what the basis is for the tax assessment in each county.
So I think it's very likely that if the assessment goes up significantly, that there are limitations on there's certainly limitations on new taxes, but this wouldn't be a new tax. But there are also limitations on new rates. This wouldn't necessarily be an increase in the rate if we apply the same rate to a greatly increased assessment. Then you get a huge or a very significant increase in taxes. So there are a couple of difficult,
But the problem is,
gnarly issues.
it's
we're
not
gonna
that,
deal with.
I understand the state's point of view that your tax will not go up as a result or significantly go up as a result. But our assessment is based upon that tax. It's not the same thing. So our assessment looks to a number, and Gary's right. It could just be that we need to see what happens and adjust the rate. But that is one path that Budget Finance could take. Budget Finance could also take just a flat fee per household. And so there's different paths they could take. I'm not saying I recommend one or the other. I just, on the flip side, I do not think it's fair that Paul only pays $1 and Elizabeth pays $400. So there's an issue there. So
You make it, you know, based on number of bedrooms or something.
But again, it does depend on what the state allows. You really have to, you're working within Title 22. That's what governs the actions, the governance of all municipalities. And so there are specific provisions in it with respect to what you can do in terms of taxing.
I'd like to have that verified because I didn't read it.
That's
that
why,
way.
I'm
Because
pointing to Fred on that, yeah.
because that says it will affect my tax in terms of the property tax I paid, but the town of Dewey Beach has tied a fee to a tax.
Well,
No,
yeah. So I think it's probably most appropriate to look at this as much as we don't like to characterize this as a property tax. It's a property tax.
it is.
It's just a property tax.
So I'm not saying that out loud.
I mean, that's what I think the beach tax is. I think it's a property tax, and but it is highly targeted.
All right, so what I'd like to do is table C upon further legal research in terms of whether this is a tax or this is not a tax, and whether this is the true effect of something that's not a direct bill from Sussex County associated with properties, and how it's going to affect us if we keep it as it is. Okay, and I'm going to ask you to, for that. All right, now, I'm going to move on to number 13. Before I have any public comment, I said in the beginning of the meeting, David Jasinski's not here, and he meant to be here and he couldn't be here. I don't feel comfortable pushing anything through with all 5 commissioners here. So I'm going to ask that we also table number 13. But please note, all of your comments were heard, all of the emails have been read, and phone calls have also been heard. So we understand the intent as well as what the town has said. Any other comment?
No discussion.
So we can have a discussion tonight, but I don't know if there's a point until, I don't want to waste anybody's time. All right. Let's get to number 14, comments. Town manager.
None at this time, sir.
Police chief.
Kate, can you put up Jasper's picture for me? So we were lucky enough to be awarded K9 Jasper. I did an essay for him, and I took a different route on it. I kind of made it like he's going to be our dog ambassador, our dog crime fighter. We want to get him out in the community, hopefully be able to have him out in the schools. We're going to get trading cards so we can take him to events where the kids are and everything like that. K9 Jasper was awarded to us by the Highland Canine Connect. And they are basically a nonprofit. What they do is they take rescue dogs. Believe it or not, Jasper was abandoned at a dog sitter. And he was donated to the Highland Canine Connect, where they tested him, and he had a drive for narcotics detection and for tracking. So he's been trained to locate PCP, MDMA, cocaine, meth, and heroin. And he's also been trained for on and off leash obedience, and he does tracking and he does article search. So
Do we have a picture with his tongue not out of his mouth?
we have a couple pictures of him. There he is.
Still out.
He's a little bit bigger. I think they told me he's about 75 pounds. He's 1 year old. He's very friendly and outgoing. So the goal is PFC Epke will be going to training in North Carolina on the 23rd of this month, which is Monday, and he'll be there. That's paid for. So the dog has been given, the dog is probably worth about $10,000. The training is paid for, so we're not paying for training. And we're also not paying for Dylan's lodging. They have a house on site where they are allowed to stay for free. So basically, it's basically a donation of about $15,000 to our town. And really the big thing is to provide the dog with a good home. And they looked at us, they liked our essay. I spoke to the head trainer multiple times about it when they contacted me, and we were selected over about 8 other agencies that applied for him. So I think he's going to be a great addition to our town. We are using our current vehicle that we already have. Dylan Epke has a Dodge Durango. We're getting an insert for that. So the dog will be housed in that. And we had to buy a kennel for the home. Anything that I have to buy for the canine program, just like I bought for Smoke, who's still in training, has come out of our LESO funding money, or the 1033 funding. Also, Canine Smoke and Corporal Curtin next week will be their last week of training, and they'll graduate from that. So they should return to the town by the 28th. Canine Smoke is patrol trained, so he's patrol and narcotics. Whereas Jasper is narcotics and basically tracking, like for missing people and things like that. And once again, he's supposed to have a bubbly personality, so he's supposed to be good with the community. So that's going to be our goal, to have him out and about all over town. So I'm very excited that they selected us. I think it was a great opportunity. And also Officer Epke is very excited about it. This is giving him something new to look forward to in his career. And he's a young officer, so he'll also stay with us for many more years to come, because he now is a canine handler. So we're very excited about that. Our UTV is currently at AdArt, so we're hoping that will be completed by next Friday, so we can have it out here for the Halloween stuff. And also we're gonna be participating in Sea Witch and helping them with their event. So after next weekend, the vehicle will be utilized all year round on the beaches around town and at all the events. So that thing's gonna be great. It's got lights and siren and everything on it. It's gonna be really cool. Let's see, stats. So from May to October, we had 3,460 calls for service. We wrote 401 traffic tickets, 431 parking tickets, handled 57 accidents, did 94 criminal investigations, had 11 DUI arrests, 4 ordinance arrests, 46 adult arrests, 48 warrant arrests. And then the seasonal stats from May 26th to October 11th, they wrote 669 parking tickets, 232 civil violations, 98 criminal violations, and made 122 criminal arrests. So we still have 4 seasonals here, and they'll be working with us until the end of November. So we're relying on them a lot. They're still out there on their bikes and stuff and getting out there and helping out the full-time officers. We have the 3 in the academy. They've been in the academy for 2 weeks, and they're doing very well so far. It's going to be a long road. It's about 5 months in the academy. Sergeant Jenny's last day was Monday the 16th, so we now have 1 opening. So I'm going to have Kate go ahead and advertise for a certified, so hopefully we can get another lateral to come on board. If we don't find a lateral, then of course we will be maybe looking for a new hire again to attend the spring academy to bring us back up to 13. So everything's going well, and we're moving at a good rate and progressing, and Sergeant Schmidt is a fantastic addition. He's very well liked, and he's really good for us. So everything's going well.
Great officer.
Yes, he is.
All right. Commissioner Barra,
No comments.
Commissioner Gibbons.
Sorry, guys, I have a few. So first, I wanted to commend the chief on the application that you wrote for Jasper. It was brilliant. You brought us to life. I would, I had any dog that I could give, I would have given it to Dewey Beach too. So that was brilliant. Secondly, there has been a lot of comments, at least in my emails, it didn't happen today in the meeting, about how the Bay Beach is somehow less dewy than the ocean beach. Percentage-wise, there is less sand on the Bay Beach than there is on the ocean beach. I entirely agree. However, the Bay Beach is used as much per square foot, I would say, as the ocean beach is. I happen, as Vinny referenced, I have a very good view of the Bay Beach. People that come to town with small children prefer the Bay Beach because there are no waves and their children can wade comfortably. There is lines waiting for people to be there to watch the sunset. That is our West Coast sunset view. So it is as important to the town. It is not just a Hyatt attachment. And I wanted that to be on the record. And then secondly, or lastly, Dewey Goes Pink went fabulously. The MS Bike to the Bay failed to coordinate with us, and that did cause some problems. And I heard from bikers that they told them to start earlier. And so the bikers were coming into town as the runners were running. And that meant that some of my psychology team who are in hand carts because they're in wheelchairs were out in the traffic because the runners were in the roped off areas. So I'm not sure what we can do to reach out to the MS Society that does the Bike to the Bay to make sure that they don't mess up again. But I just wanted to put that out, that we did have a little trouble, not with us, but because they misjudged what was going on in town. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brister.
Yeah, I said earlier that I had some questions or comments regarding the budget and where we stand and where we expect it to be by the end of the fiscal year. I'm going to send those questions to the town, but I hope, if I think I have the opportunity to make some comments, to work with you. I would like the opportunity to meet with town manager and finance director to talk through some of those things. I think we'll have better results as a result of that. We'll have more efficient meetings if we all have common agreement on the numbers that we have. So I'm really honestly here to help. I'm not trying to get in the way. I really do want to provide assistance. but I really want to understand and hopefully agree with the numbers that we come up with and decide to live by. That's all I have.
Yes. A few quick comments, and I'll get us out of here before 5, maybe. We've got 4 minutes. The one thing that came through, obviously we had a few different discussion items today, agenda, but with several people coming up to be appointed on certain committees, we've got a few more in the works. I really just want to thank those that have volunteered to be part of Dewey Beach in terms of various committees. Various committees end up being at some point in time, if they want the experience, come on to council. So it's a great start to expanding that. So I just want to thank all the volunteers, especially Dave, who's been instrumental in so many different committees that we've had over the years. The town itself, the things that I'd ask for, if there's things that you see on the agenda that have questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to communicate through as to why. But I also, as the mayor, will do a better job in the future as to the why in terms of documentation that's been provided. There's nothing being done here behind the smoke, behind the screen. There's nothing being done that's evil or nefarious. We're all here just purely because we love Dewey. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.